Hey, everybody out there in the Bosshole Transformation Nation. This is your host, John Broer, and it is so good to have you back on another Tuesday and another installment of the Bosshole Chronicles. Let me just say, first of all, that we are so thankful for all of our listeners out there, the way you are sharing and spreading the word about the Bosshole Chronicles, not only through the United States, but around the world. The audience just continues to grow, and we're so very appreciative of that. Today, you're going to have a chance to meet Jill Hofmans. And let me tell you a little bit about Jill. Jill is the executive director of the Conway Center for Family Business, located right here in Columbus, Ohio. She has been doing this for, about the last 6 years almost as the executive director. She's been affiliated with the Conway Center for almost 12 and a half years. And let me go further by saying I was introduced to Jill by our good friends and colleagues at the University of Toledo Family Business Center. And that Family Business Center has been around for nearly 30 years. And Real Good Ventures, we are a professional service provider and friend of the UT Family Business Center, doing work with their affinity groups. And it's really cool to learn how Jill and the team at the Conway Center are doing some remarkable things with family businesses as well. It's so good to have her joining us, not only to share about the remarkable work being done at the Conway Center, but also how her very own Bosshole experience helped to shape who she is today. So let's hear from Jill. The Bosshole Chronicles are brought to you by Real Good Ventures, a talent optimization firm helping organizations diagnose their most critical people and execution issues with world-class analytics. Make sure to check out all the resources in the show notes and be sure to follow us and share your feedback. Enjoy today's episode. Well, Jill, it is so nice to have you here on the Bosshole Chronicles. Welcome.
Well, thank you, John. I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad that the Bosshole Transformation Nation is going to get to not only meet you, but hear a little bit more about your story, your experiences. And of course, they know from the intro that you and I met through a referral from the University of Toledo Family Business Center, and you were the executive director of the Conway Center for Family Business here in Columbus, Ohio, a really remarkable organization. And go into the show notes. We're going to have some links to it there, but you're doing some great stuff there. When you and I met, I would say it was mid part of last year or latter part of 2023. We were just talking, and it's a fun thing to do. But when you learned about the podcast, you say, "Oh my gosh, I've got a Bosshole story," and it's like, we're going to get you on the program. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what you've learned and your remarkable work with the Conway Center for Family Business. But let's start with the juicy stuff, Jill. You've got a Bosshole story, and just take us through it.
Sure.
What happened?
Happy to. So I was recently promoted into a position running a department. I'd been with the company for a few years. I didn't really interact with this guy too much because there was a buffer between me and him. Okay. So I get promoted and he is now my boss. So a few months in, I run a meeting for the first time with a bunch of our stakeholders. And it's a great meeting. I'm feeling really good. I'm a little nervous because it's the first time I'm running this meeting by myself. Yeah. He's there, of course. So I feel like, okay, this went really well. I'm super stoked. So back to the office. The next day, he calls me. He says, "That meeting was incredible. You did the most amazing job with these people. They had never listened and paid attention to your predecessor the way they did to you. Wow. You were super open and transparent." So I'm like going, yeah, I got this. I am amazing. I knew I was so good.
You're floating. You're floating at this point. Yes. Okay.
Then he says, "Don't ever do it again."
Are you serious?
I said, "What?" Yeah. Yeah. I said, "Excuse me, what?" He said, "You brought up that some of our partners had left the organization, and then someone asked you why. And even though you handled it well and spun it to be a positive, you are creating the impression when you tell them that people leave that they're on a losing team. And so now they think we're losers, and now they're going to leave. So
Wow.
I
That's a lot.
am
That's a lot to unpack. Okay. Okay.
gobsmacked.
Yeah.
Gobsmacked. So I said, oh, after I regained my composure and tried not to curse him out or cry or hang up the
Right.
phone or, quit on the spot.
Right.
I say, oh, well, I respectfully disagree.
Okay.
As you said, I was transparent. They were engaged in the meeting. I said, I feel like it's important as an authentic person for people to know the comings and goings, why people come and go. Yes, it wasn't a spin. It was, well, maybe they weren't as engaged as much, or they didn't partner with us for the right reasons. But I really feel like it's important for all the stakeholders to know where we are in the process. And he was like, don't know. They think we're losers. What? They don't think we're losers. The woman who did ask the question of me, like, oh, well, why did they leave? Was really curious, because she said, this is the most amazing partnership we've ever had. I can't believe someone would leave. Why would they leave? So I explained it in terms of they weren't engaged. And so that was fun.
Okay. So again, came in, showered you with praise about how you did that meeting. People were more engaged than your predecessor, and then smacked you with, don't ever do it again because they think we're on a losing team. So I don't know where I'm sure you're like, how did you make that leap?
Oh,
okay. All right. I think there are people out there empathizing with you right now. Go ahead, Jill. Sorry.
Sure. So to go from like, you were really transparent and they really responded to that, to like, don't you dare. Don't you. Okay. So needless to say, I didn't take his advice.
You didn't take his no. I know you well enough now, Jill. I understand where you're going. Okay, go ahead.
But what it taught me was several things in my leadership journey. One, to then never ask permission and only ask forgiveness.
Okay.
Because I really learned with him that if I ever said, okay, here's what I'm going to talk about, I'd give an agenda, but I wouldn't say what was happening. Way better with him to ask forgiveness, which I don't think is a really great collaborative teamwork situation, but I had to do that. I got really thick skin really fast.
Right.
And I think as a leader, that's important. I love vulnerability and authenticity, and I have empathy and all of that good stuff, but I also had to get a thick skin really quick to deal with him and, other people in life.
Of course.
I think the greatest lesson I learned as a leader was I was going to shield my team from that.
Right. Okay.
So the way I did that was, let's say someone on my team made a big mistake. Mm-hmm. Yes, I would deal with them. We do a performance plan, or, I'd help them work through it. But when it got to him, I was never going to let them suffer his vitriol, because it was petty, egregious. So I learned that as the leader of that department, it was all on me. Mm-hmm. We worked great as a team, but I was going to throw myself under that bus before I would ever let them feel which that was really extreme in that department. Now in my role at the center, I work with the board, and, I don't have to be so suit of armor all the time, and we can collaborate a little bit more at leadership levels. But it really, really fostered in me that I was there to protect my team. And I think that's important as a leader.
Oh, absolutely. And our listeners will recall a number of episodes where managers felt I needed to provide, one said I need to provide or run interference. Right. You're protecting, we call that providing cover. Yeah. Because we've had other stories where managers threw their direct reports right under the wheels. And it's like, oh yeah, this person's they did this wrong. They made this mistake. Yeah. They may not be on this team. No cover whatsoever, not coming to their defense. And it's also not trying to cover up actual egregious errors. It means you're the leader of this team and I'm willing to step into that role. So let's get back to this guy for just a second. So I love what you said, that you really had to take the tact of asking for forgiveness rather than permission. And that does not constitute a healthy, trusting relationship. However, did he try to throttle or edit or kind of get ahead of any messaging? I mean, did he say, "Hey, Jill, before you have a meeting, I'd like to see your outline. I want to know." Did he try to do that? Did he try to insert himself that way?
He was such a micromanager in a
Okay.
way that was, he tried to insert himself in and I ignored him. And,
Okay.
he and I had a very contentious
Yes.
relationship from the get-go. But I had my team in mind, the mission in mind. So it was like I would go and dance in circles with him and take a lot of shit from him
Yeah.
just because I needed to do what I needed to do.
Yes.
Yeah. He was also the one who would, anybody in the room, it didn't matter if you were the secretary, the director of the department, his, partner, if he wanted something dictated or drafted, he'd say, write this down. So you'd write it down and then get it back to me. And then you'd send it to him. Then he would sit in the next meeting with it and edit it. One word, one or two words, and hand it back to you. And I'd say, dude, those were your words.
Yeah.
Fix it.
Okay.
Like one word, like controlling, micromanaging. Like, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think we know this person pretty well. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, well, okay.
That was fun.
Well, and how long was this? How long were you working? How long was this person?
I think I sucked it up for maybe 3 or 4 years because I couldn't.
Oh, that's a considerable amount of time. Okay, just for everybody's benefit, our listeners know that in our world, everything we do is around behavioral data and objective data. Jill is a promoter, and a promoter is about connecting and teamwork and drawing out the very best in people. And for somebody to try to control you for 3 or 4 years, you felt that. There's no question you felt that. I mean, just mentally, physically, emotionally, I got to imagine.
Awful.
Yeah.
It was really hard, but I so much believed in my team and the work we were doing that I thought, okay, I can, or foolishly hoping, oh, this will get better, or I'll kill him with kindness, or,
right. Yeah.
I have so much whatever. Yeah, no. Ooh.
Okay. I got it. Now, did he move on or did you move on?
I moved on.
Okay. Got it. Oh, that's the part that frustrates, because you started to help us understand a little bit more of the lessons learned. I want to go further into that because it certainly defined you. We want to look at these Bosshole stories as not the things that are crushing our spirit and destroying careers, but we're actually growing from it. And fortunately, we've had a lot of those stories. But that's one of those things where here you are. My guess is that your team really valued how you helped them grow and develop them, and now you're gone. And you're gone because this Bosshole, this person was just not, shouldn't have been in that role. So now, lessons learned. Everybody has a Bosshole story. Some of us have multiple Bosshole stories, which is okay. But you learned from this, and so you started to share with us how this has defined you as a leader, a professional now. What are the 2 or 3 most critical takeaways you got from that specific experience?
The first one is that my integrity is everything.
Yes.
So I was not going to compromise on what I thought was right for the team, the stakeholders, our partners, and that I really felt like authenticity does rule the day. I'm all about relationships, very relational, not transactional. So I was so proud of myself to not let him crush that in me, but actually sort of watered that seed. So I am fierce about being transparent and authentic.
Okay.
In a very, but not in like a in your face kind of mean, that can go a Bosshole way, right? When
sure.
I'm authentic. That I think integrity and that how it just solidified how important that is to me as a person and how I show up every day for teams and organizations.
Yeah.
The other was the thick skin, which I think leaders need. We get a lot of stuff thrown at us that fair or not fair. When you're in a leadership role, you have to deal with it, whether you like it or not. So I couldn't stomp my feet and cry and say, but no fair. You have to be a grown-up, which I don't love being a grown-up, but you have to be a grown-up.
Well, you do. That's true, though. That's true. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And the other was to, I don't want to say protect my team at all costs, but that's part of it because you're nothing without the people around you.
Right.
So I can't do the work I do all by myself in a vacuum, So I know it's important to foster good and also to model for them that, yeah, don't let the turkeys get you down.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would see this or, the ramifications of it or the implications. And I was modeling for them that we can still be professional. We can still really do our job, even if they're not great support systems out there. So
no,
yeah.
no doubt. No doubt. Well, oftentimes we talk about when we do our leadership academies and we're working with new or existing managers. One of the things we always talk about is management is not a popularity contest. If you're getting into this, if you're getting into this, hoping to be admired and loved and cherished by your people, you are in it for the wrong reasons. You will be miserable. And at the same time, part of your job is to be that buffer, to provide that cover or insulation for your team. And a lot of times they don't see the shit that you're taking, the pressure.
Right.
And at the same time, you're being transparent and honest with them to the degree that you're able to. I mean, there's stuff that you learn as a manager from upper management that you can't convey and communicate. It's not time for that yet, but I can at least tell them, listen, I will share with you what I'm able to share. But there are things that I have to hold in confidence right now until this is developed a little bit more. That's a hard thing to do. And you're getting pressure from both ends. So integrity, thick skin, watch out for your team, and literally truly appreciate the gifts and the talents that are on that team and help to nurture them. Right. So all of that, and that's awesome, Jill. So all of that, plus other experiences, obviously, have led you to this role with the Conway Center for Family Business. I've had the opportunity, you've been kind enough to invite me to some of the meetings in 23 and 2024. It's just a really cool organization. People very much committed to, and again, family businesses are unique. We've done a lot of work with family businesses. That's the central focus of what you do. Tell us a little bit more about, I'm going to frame it in the way of Bosshole prevention and Bosshole intervention with, as we like to say, but tell us a little bit more about the work that you're doing for family businesses and how you're helping family business owners and people in it stay out of the Bosshole zone. What are some of the things you're offering?
Yeah, so it is unique. What we offer here is that we focus really on that family business dynamic, which, running a business is hard. Running a business with family is harder. You get to go to work with the people that you love the most, but also who know exactly which button to push. So a lot of the work we do is educational programming around how to navigate those dynamics. I think the heartbeat of what we do is our peer group programs, and that's where Bosshole intervention and prevention comes in.
Right.
So I am fortunate enough to facilitate our C-level peer groups. So I have a couple CEO peer groups, some rising CEO peer groups. So they're imminently next in line or have just taken over the family business. And in those spaces that we've created, very nurturing and collaborative small groups, they check each other. If someone starts off on, my employee this or my brother that or my dad that, they get checked by their peers. And I think, especially at that rising CEO level, where still there might be some issues of entitlement, imposter syndrome, like all of that, all woven into this mass of insecurity and arrogance, they get checked. And I think it's a beautiful thing to see that we're not only helping the businesses thrive, but these families get better and smarter and less boss-holy.
Right.
Because they all of our family business leaders have Bosshole stories about their parents or their uncles.
Oh, sure.
Their grandparents. So we're helping. I really feel like we're impacting, especially at that rising CEO level, to break that sort of generational curse.
Yes.
So it's awesome to watch.
And the dynamics are so unique. I mean, my father, his grandfather, we had a family business. It was such that my father said, "No, I want you to go out and
Right?
And actually, I'm really glad he did. And it was in retail, tough in retail in Northwest Ohio. But in our work at Real Good Ventures over the years, we've done a considerable amount of work with family businesses. And what's unique is when you're working with the Gen 2 or second generation, third generation, and the misnomer. Well, first of all, they can't go home to the dinner table and not be there with the same dynamics. I mean, it's like sometimes we're on vacation together, or we have a discipline of doing separate vacations. It's just the family tie is there. What's so funny, and I'm sure you've seen this, is I think the misnomer that, what's the old saying that, well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Right.
Oh no, actually the apple falls sometimes in a different pasture, because the founder, as we, in our world, we talk about behavioral wiring and behavioral analytics, totally different. But they think simply because there's a bloodline, there's a similarity, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And I would imagine when you expose that, not expose it, but when you reveal that or unpack it, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm totally different than my father, my grandfather, my uncle, and I'm going to lead differently. That's okay, but it's a dynamic that needs to be addressed. You've got to be running into that all the time.
All the time. And especially, family businesses are much better than our general culture about having women run the businesses. So there's that whole thing to unpack when it's a dad and a daughter, or, a mom and a daughter. Like, they're very different. I mean, not even apples, but oranges sometimes.
Yeah. And that's okay. Yeah. That's okay. Right. Absolutely.
And we navigate a lot of that. One of the things I think too, for some Bosshole prevention and often intervention, is assessment. So like the PI, super helpful for people to know who they are, where they're coming from, and where everybody else is. So we really try to do that a lot with our folks too, like do some introspection, figure your own shit out before you start, and I think we don't talk about that enough, I think, in general culture, especially in the family business, just like you're in the business and here we go. But let's figure it out.
Yeah. We didn't come to this conclusion. This was from a Stanford study that self-awareness is the number one competency for effective leadership. If you can't do that hard introspection and self-awareness, have that conversation, it's not, that's part one, but part two is, what is my impact on other people? So let's go back to your Bosshole. Talk about somebody that could do with a little bit of self-awareness and introspection about your impact on other people. And just basic skills of developing other people, what a difference that would make, for so many relationships. But in this case, family businesses. Wow. So Jill, what's on the horizon for the Conway Center for Family Business? What are some things that are exciting you for this year and the years to come?
So, our programming is pretty stable, but what I'm really looking forward to is we're going to launch a strategic planning session with our board. So I'm really excited about growth opportunities and how we can impact even more family businesses in the area. I'm excited to really talk about my own succession planning because, I probably not going to be there forever. So, an organization can't run just on the force of someone's personality. So I'm really excited. And I think that's really going to show our members too, that we put our money where our mouth is. We talk to them all the time about succession. I don't have a successor. If I go out and get hit by a bus today, I'm excited. I mean, it sounds weird to be excited to talk about your exit, but I'm excited to launch that and get on that journey and then, have some synergies with our members who are doing the same things in their families.
I think that there is real gold in just that simple comment, Jill, that you are thinking about succession in an organization that services and supports family businesses. Succession planning is something that in a family business is really tough to talk about sometimes. We've worked with a couple of organizations where the chief person, he or she, doesn't even want to have that conversation. I'll be around for 3 to 5 more years, and we say you can either get hit by a bus, or win the lottery, or decide you're gonna live in another part of the world and do something else. What does the company do? So I think you're modeling the sort of thing that I'm sure family businesses are realizing. If we don't do this, it's going to be really, really tough for us to survive moving forward.
Well, succession happens no matter what. You might as well plan for it.
Right.
I mean, it happened. It's going to happen. So why not plan for it and position an organization to be in the strongest possible way to continue their legacy? So
absolutely.
That's what I'm excited about.
That's cool. That is so cool. Well, listen, this has been so great. And I want to remind our listeners, go into the show notes because you'll find Jill's contact information. Her LinkedIn profile will be in there, a link to the Conway Center for Family Business. If you are a family business in Central Ohio and you are not, I don't see how you wouldn't be aware of the Conway Center for Family Business. But if this is the first time you're hearing about it, check it out because what they offer, the peer-to-peer input, that kind of knowledge, those kinds of resources are so valuable for really just shaping what the future is going to look like for your organization. But check that out. And Jill, many, many thanks on behalf of the Bosshole Transformation Nation. It was just great having you here.
Thank you so much, John. It's always a pleasure to be in your presence. So thank you.
Oh, that's very kind. All right. We'll see you next time on the Bosshole Chronicles. We'd like to thank our guests today on the Bosshole Chronicles. And if you have a Bosshole Chronicles story of your own, please email us at mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. Once again, mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. We'll see you again soon.